Spring football nearly upon us. I have some questions for you. Really, I have some questions for myself. I'd love for you to answer them. For instance, at Georgia, are they going to be able to replace the perimeter skill they've lost? Both sides of the ball. So DBs like Javon Bullard, Kamari Lassiter, Tyke Smith gone. And then, of course, you got Brock Bowers at tight end, who was our number one receiving threat. He's gone. Lab McConkey, he's gone. Now, as you well know, places that recruit like that, and there aren't many of them, there are certain names that will be household by the end of the year that you don't know about right now. And that is most likely the case at Georgia, but that's what makes it a spring question. Got to find out who that is. They got transfers from, I think, Vandy and Miami at wide receiver, and they've also recruited well, and they've portaled well. They got guys like Ra Thomas last portal cycle in. My question will be, is there a wide receiver one that emerges from that crop? Saw Tom Fornelli, talking about Oscar Delp earlier today. Oscar Delp would be an all-American caliber tight end at other programs last year. He just happened to play on the same team as Brock Bowers, so outside of Athens and hardcore SEC fans, most folks don't know about him. That will end in about 6 months, or sooner if you pay attention to Georgia spring football. What about Michigan? New quarterback, Alex Orji, talk about him in a second, and new staff. So twofold on the question front here. Alex Orji, 6'3", 236. The comps are to Jalen Milroe from folks up there close to the program. Maybe a little more accurate. We'll see. That's what makes it a question. But also the staff. I mean, what kind of offense are they going to run? When are we going to finalize all the staffing and the hires up there? They're losing a ton on the offensive line. What kind of style will they be able to play this year? They lost two big names at wide receiver. So, yes, on one hand, it's not a dome, so you can't hang the banner, but you're celebrating a national championship. But this staff's new. This team's new. They haven't accomplished anything. That's what Sharon Moore is going to be preaching, no doubt. So you got that. At Florida State, I've got questions. I don't question Mike Norvell. You know we're big fans of Mike Norvell. But they're losing a ton of experience on defense. So as you open spring ball down there in Tallahassee, you're losing about a dozen guys who had double-digit starts on defense. Now, you know they've recruited pretty well. They've portaled extremely well. So they've tried addressing it via the portal, and I don't doubt to a large degree they will have. But they also lost two of their top receivers, and they're bringing in DJ Uiagalelei at quarterback. So there's an assumption out there, and candidly, I share the assumption, that Florida State as a program has arrived. Like they're not going to fade off. It's not a window program, as we call it, where they'll be up 1 year like Michigan State a couple of years ago and then they fall off a cliff. That's not FSU. Over-under win total at FanDuel is 9.5. Odds makers agree with that. The question to me is, who are those names who are going to step up? That's one of the spring practice sessions, actually, that I'll be paying really close attention to is Florida State. Kansas State also got questions here, not at quarterback, because Avery Johnson's the guy at quarterback. The question is, how much can he do and what's around him? They lost two big-time wide receivers. They lost 4 starters on the offensive line, and look at those amount of starts, 48, 41, 32, 27. They only got one offensive lineman returning with 8 or more starts. And Kansas State is a developmental program. It's not littered with 4- and 5-star talent up and down the roster. Defense will be good. It'll probably buy him some time. But Avery Johnson, okay, he's a talent, but I need guys around him to step up. And also, and I could have started with this, but I'll finish with it. Let's go out to the West Coast. The question at USC in the spring, defense in totality and practice style. I don't think we say that much about major programs, but if you think back to last spring, they had to alter the way they practiced in spring. Like they had to just kind of say, all right, we're kind of done playing football. We'll work on 7-on-7 style practicing. They couldn't, they were too thin. They couldn't tackle. And then they couldn't do it in the season either. And so Lincoln Riley has looked at a lot of the pieces of his roster depart. He got rid of some staffers. They were going to be young. They're going to be inexperienced. They're going to be new names that you don't recognize. Maybe even if you're a USC fan, that's not all bad. Big names came in there last year via the portal, but some of those big names did not come with big production. And I think Lincoln Riley knows that they've got to fundamentally alter the way they play. Starts with the way they practice. Those are his words, not mine. And he also understands we cannot shortcut our way to this. We are USC, first off, so we shouldn't have to portal our way to anything. We got to build through recruiting. They have not recruited at an elite level. They've recruited at a pretty good to really good level. They've got to continue to upgrade there. And they've got to go national to recruit the offensive and defensive lines, but they've also got to be better at wide receiver. That's Lincoln Riley. That's supposed to be an explosive offense, and Caleb Williams kind of hid the fact they were average far too often at receiver last year. Big names, not big production. So I don't think it's the worst thing in the world for them to have a lot of new blood. And it may come with some losses this season, and that's the short term, and everyone will judge Riley in the here and now. I told you my thoughts on it last month. I'm willing, given the circumstances, to give him some time. I'm willing to look at Lincoln Riley like a first-year head coach this year. That's what I'm willing to do. Most of you won't agree with me on that. So you guys have fun, and you have the right to. Because if your opinion is, this is USC, you don't get to experiment on the fly as the head coach of USC. That's fair. That's fair. I guess since I am not a fan of USC, I observe them, I can afford to take a little different approach. But look, if I was a USC fan, I'd probably feel the way you guys do. So either way, I get it. I'm just telling you how I will look at Lincoln Riley and USC this year.